Hi, everybody. This is our take two, but we're going to give it a go. Beth is joining me today to help out with Autism Awareness and EDS Awareness Month. We've been collaborating the two together with different supports and tidbits from patients all around with the EDS world. And so today is Beth's day to join me to talk about some things. We tried earlier and ended up with a video with no sound. So we'll see how this next take goes.
Round two.
It's going to be a great conversation no matter what. So, I met Beth last year, and she's been on an incredible journey. It's ongoing, with some neat breakthroughs and wonderful things. But one of the things we have in common is we are both autistic. We both have EDS. And so I was very excited that she wanted to join me to talk about some things today. The EDS Society prompt for day 12 is, what was your most overlooked symptom? And because we don't like to do anything that exactly follows the rules without a reason to, we're going to put a spin on it. Let's talk about things that get overlooked in us as patients, especially in communication. The struggles on the autism spectrum, body language that gets misunderstood, life processing that gets misunderstood. Oh, that's what it was. We were talking about the fight and being misunderstood in directness. We'll get to that. Okay, so Beth, tell me about some of your thoughts when you're dealing with, it's very similar with doctors, with sometimes family members around this. What do you feel gets missed for you?
And this is huge for me. This is really how and why I kind of found you in the first place, is I realized I was struggling so much. I just felt like I was never heard, and I would come so prepared and be so ready. But I feel like the second that there was any questioning or any doubt or any rejection, I, unlike a lot of people, don't have the ability to like stand tall and withstand that. I immediately shut down and become like a bumbling idiot. Like I have no idea what I'm talking about. And it made the doctors, I don't know, maybe perceive me a certain way because I didn't have that ability to really say what I was feeling, because I was still masking. I was still trying to be polite, still trying to overthink what I wore, what I looked like. Do I look sick enough? Do I appear this way?
Yeah.
Just overthinking the whole process and not allowing the symptoms and the necessary information to come through. And it was a huge disconnect for me to get the care I need, because I just couldn't communicate clearly what was happening, because I was so worried about all the peripheral stuff going on.
And I see that a lot. I've shared the struggle, and there's so much our bodies are experiencing. And then we get into a room and we've got maybe 20 minutes, if we're lucky, to somehow get across what's needed for them to run really important tests, to think it's medically necessary, to rule things out, to help narrow stuff down. It's a very small window of time. And the stress of that, I think many people have the same struggle. I have yet to run into someone who hasn't, let's put it that way. And we internalize it. It becomes a very self-deprecating kind of attitude. And I want to point this out because it's a feature of autism. We care so much about other people's needs. And I remember that came up earlier, so I want to go there too.
Hmm.
One of our biggest motivations is other people's needs. And when we're functioning well, when we've learned, when we have been able to communicate in detail, we can bear a lot of needs where it's not a burden. It doesn't overwhelm us. It's, something I need, who I'm exhausted, something you need, I'm there. We've got this. And being in that moment, trying to gauge all of their communication, all of the doctor's emotions and communication on the spectrum, while trying to identify our own. And people really misunderstand the interoception piece. They say autistic people have difficulty sensing internal emotions. So that is not quite what that. No, it doesn't really mean that. We don't. We're just having way more than you.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out which ones consciously or subconsciously, are going to help solve the problem.
Yeah, and we're so hyper aware. I mean, two things with that. One, for me, I have my script in my head of how I want it to go. So if that gets thrown off, I'm so flustered, and it's not intentional, but it's like I want it to go this certain way, or I need it to go this way. And so there's very much a script that if I get thrown off, I notice that's where or I'm learning that's my neurodivergent autism is like, whoa, my script is off. Now I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
And two,
Yeah.
like, I'm so hyper aware of the needs that the second the doctor walks in the door, I can tell you almost what kind of day he's having. I can tell if he's behind, if he's rushed. I'm listening to the other rooms. I can hear the patients if they're laughing or crying. Like, I'm so aware of, I don't want to be an inconvenience. Is he rushed? I'm going to, minimize
Mhm.
myself. Is he, so there's so much of that, like trying to be a good patient instead of trying
Yeah.
to have my needs met.
And we've spent so long prioritizing other people's needs because it's a way of connecting with people.
Mhm.
In autism, we connect to people through things that they need, and I think it can be very distressing for for autistics who have additional issues and struggles, even brain damage. I think the emotions are there, the desire is there, and it becomes very distressing when other people won't tell us what they need because then we can't do anything for them.
Right.
And that is a way we connect, that we synchronize mentally and emotionally in a very big way. And the immediate, well, what kind of day is that doctor having, and trying to process that in this moment we actually can't focus on them, we have to focus on ourselves. And oh my gosh,
It's so hard.
how are we going to do that? We have spent years with our body fighting battles we weren't aware of, and when we finally get answers, we want to solve the problem, we want to put it together, and it makes us very direct. And I think that can often come across as aggressive. Um, and that's a spectrum word too. It doesn't mean violent. It's an aggression, a directness about getting something done, about the needs of things that also can get really misread when they're not understanding that, like, well, this has been years of
Right.
never being able to communicate. I now I do.
I'm trying so hard not to be the emotional side of that and just go in there and weep and cry and say I hurt so bad. And so I'm trying so hard to not be that version and to make it, direct and clinical so I can get my needs heard. That sometimes I wonder if they're missing that emotion because I've learned to turn it off because I have to. I feel like, I have such limited time. So there's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
fine line of navigating, like I never feel like I'm actually just being comfortable because and to me it's a lot, and I hate to say this, but about balancing their ego. Like, you don't want to tell them what to do, but in our minds we have
yeah,
things that we want, and things that not just that we want but we know that will help us, or that because we live the life every day and they see us for 20 minutes. And so
mhm.
there's that fine line of, I don't want to tell you what to do, but this is what I want, and that's a really hard one for me too.
Oh, the strategy, kind of the working, yeah,
Hmm.
having to work around it and help them come up with communicating through the symptoms. That's really
Right.
what we end up having to use as the strategy. Is these symptoms lead to these conclusions, and we don't leave stuff out because that's medically irresponsible, but we can learn to highlight, based on basic anatomy, physiology, an understanding of our condition, knowledge. We can highlight the ones rather than get bogged down in things we feel are relevant but may not actually be diagnostically and medically. And it can create kind of a bridge to process back and forth. But you were talking earlier today about how rejection sensitivity,
Hmm.
which we experience in autism and some in even more so in ADHD, can affect these relationships and people. Tell me
Huge.
about that.
Like I said, I usually have a script. I always come in with a handout. Like, I have in my mind how I want things to go, and same thing with other conversations. I always, pre-plan in my head. And the second it gets thrown off, even if it's a simple question like "What'd you say?" or "I didn't understand that," it's like that rejection will trigger
Mhm.
it. And I just learned I was autistic a year ago, so I'm learning so much about this. But it triggers such a physical reaction in me where as my heart starts racing, I turn like beet red. I feel like, and I'm trying to hold in so much emotion that is like
Mhm,
surging inside of me from feeling
mhm,
that rejection that I can't think clearly anymore. And it immediately shuts me down.
mhm.
And it turned, like I said, I either turn into a bumbling idiot or just silence. And it both are misinterpreted very much because, but it's, I can't explain to someone else, like, just give me a second. Like I'm literally just having heart palpitations because you didn't follow my script. I'll give me a minute to breathe and then I'll be good again. But I'm just learning this, and that's so foreign, and that's
Yeah.
really what I need. But it just, I can no longer think straight. I can no longer communicate clearly the second
Mhm,
that rejection is triggered. And
mhm.
I know it's not intentional most of the time logically, but it's
Right. The
my
body
brain
doesn't
is
agree.
so intent on doing it a certain way.
Yep.
And
Yep. That's a great transition to looking at more of the personal side. All this relates to doctors, but it really does relate to how we're trying to interact with family and friends as well. Having EDS, autism, or both, the rejection sensitivity, the way our body language can be misunderstood. So we're in that masking sense of, I don't know what this relationship is going to do. I don't know what this moment is going to be. And I think neurotypicals do not really understand how unpredictable and predictable they are. Where we know that if certain things come up, they are going to respond this way. And
right,
we can't stay, we know ahead of time, I can't stay vulnerable for that, but we want to be, and we hope they are. And, but if it could go this way, and then that could be fine, but we don't know. So we know, and
right,
we don't. And it's like walking in. It's like we know that this is the door to go through to communicate with this person. But what's on the other side is maybe a rotating set of other possible rooms, and we
mm-hmm,
don't know which room we're walking into. And they expect us to know somehow. And I think the more empathetic doctors want more emotion from us, and when we don't give it, that's a problem. And then there's some that aren't, and we give too much, but you don't know that until they walk in the door. Yeah. And so when we're trying to play this guessing game, it really disrupts things like our tone of voice, our natural tone, like what people are going to hear now listening to this. We've got a little bit of masking ish performance. We know we're being recorded,
right.
but I've engaged with you enough to know that this is
Pretty
this is
normal, yeah.
pretty normal. And what people are going to see this and hear this, but in a different setting, in a different time, that's going to change. Body language changes, voice
Oh yeah.
changes. What is something in your body language that you think people miss, that you wish that they could interpret properly?
I think definitely in posturing, I tend to kind of have a little hunchback anyways, but it, I will immediately, I do it, I immediately start like turtling over. I will
Mhm.
make myself really small, but it's a very, and I have a lot of PTSD as well. So almost immediately in groups, I will notice myself just hunkering down and then if it gets really bad, I'm on the floor, like all turtled, completely tucked in. And it's like I'm just shutting down my, like, protecting my body as much as I can is almost what it is. But
Yeah.
when it's not bad though, the small signals of like just seeing me do this that is very misinterpreted and misunderstood and not seen usually. But
How does it usually come across to people? What do they think you're doing or meaning?
I, I think it comes across as disinterest or I get really fidgety too, like I will again, I'm learning about stimming and all that, but I will get really fidgety or I will kind of seem like I'm not like engaged, like I'm, all over the place. And it's really just a protection mechanism, like I said, or like kind of going like that. I just think they don't think that I'm engaged in what they're saying and kind of internalizing it all. And I'm not. I'm just trying to process what they're saying so that I can prepare what I have to say. And it's very
Mhm.
much misunderstood as not, obviously not confident. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I
Yeah.
think myself to be one of my special interests or things is that I am pretty intelligent, but I never come across that way. No one ever listens or believes what I
Oh,
have to say because it comes across so like guarded.
yeah. And you are, and that's the thing, is you are incredibly intelligent and you process vast amounts of information. You guys should see the visual things she can do and interpret emotionally through visual processes. And it's not just a communication in passing, it relates to our identity. It hits us at the core of who we are to be misunderstood in these ways. And I'm I'm not an advocate of just being mad at the world for not getting it, but when people close to you don't take time to learn, the way I teach my kids with about this is that it's a different language. And if people really love you and care about a relationship, they should take time to learn your language. And maybe they don't understand how to do that yet, but you could at least see if they're willing to and put some things forward. It takes time, process. When do I do this? Noticing our own patterns without fear and what else is going on. And then being able to say, oh, yeah, I do look like this. One of mine, my kids call this out all the way. When I'm very focused on anything, and that might be like masking because I don't know how the communication is going to go, or getting a project done, thinking through something, my face looks very aggressive.
Angry
My face
face.
looks very angry, and they've noticed it since they were little, and it's so hard for me because I'm like, no, no, I was, because I can sometimes be feeling quite intense delight and joy,
Right.
but my face shows this other thing, and I don't know it. I can feel it. Someone says something, I feel it and go, oh, because
Right.
I've tuned into more of, I don't have a mirror in front of me trying to feel what my
It's a
face is
positive
doing.
feeling for you. You're focused on something and you're getting so much joy out of it, but
It's
it
all in
comes across
here. It's
very
not out here, right?
right.
And that will get misinterpreted as angry, and it affects my tone of voice too.
Mhm.
Um, and if I get backed into things, or needing to communicate directly and specifically on a task base, I get very upright and I get very direct, and I'm putting a lot of very intense focus into engaging the person with eye contact. And I've learned much more about body language, so I know when around with doctors how to relax and change
Right.
things. But when I'm with friends and family, I don't want to do that. It's a lot of work, guys.
It's a lot of work.
It's a
It's a
lot of
lot of
work
work.
when you're supposed to just be a friend, or like, oh, if a person in the family, they're not supposed to have to calculate every single thing we do around you.
It does.
And we can be, just redirect us, like be like, you sound a little upset, are you upset? Oh, no, cool, we're good. But that's what I find that doesn't happen. We don't get asked.
Right.
They assume, and that's where it goes back to that identity issue, especially for the people that don't spend as much time around us and know us, then know this incredibly kind, intelligent, beautiful person, like the one sitting in front of me. And so they hyper focus on the emotion they thought was real, which might have been in there. I run into that too, where my son's so intuitive and he'll notice something. And I go, oh, I was actually kind of feeling that.
Right.
But it was because I was remembering this scene from a movie.
Mhm.
It's different. It's maybe how other people see ADHD externally, is in a little bit up here, many topics, many things, and our emotions show. So that's one many story rabbit pulling around, right? And you get
Right.
this.
Yeah, and now I just want to add one more thing to that because you said people mentioning it like a situation with that is I tend to info dump a lot. And it's to me, it's pure joy. When someone mentions design or coding or graphic, the stuff that I love, I will get so excited. And it's always been misread as like you're stealing the conversation,
Yeah.
you're talking over people, you're interrupting people. And but I get so excited. And I finally, after learning about info dumping, told my boyfriend, I gave him permission. Like, if I do that and you're trying to say something or just tell me, hey Beth, you're info dumping right now. I
Raise
get
up
you
a
love this,
hand.
but just tell me. And
Ask
it
for
that
advice.
registers in my brain immediately. Like he's not shutting me up. He's not telling me he doesn't care. He's just saying, you're getting really excited right now. Because the second someone says, okay, cool, I don't want to hear about that, I get that rejection. Um,
Yeah.
so now that we've communicated that, like you can use that word, say that word, and it'll click in my brain. it's helped so much with that rejection of like me getting excited
Good.
and talking about things.
Mhm.
And that's like you said, wanting people to ask, or I'm fine if people call me out on it.
Right.
Like,
And that's an assumption. I find so many people just assume that I can't do that. They
right,
assume that I somehow have this obsessive compulsive need to be the center of the attention around the time. It's such a mischaracterization of
right.
everything because we're in this moment of pure wondrous delight, and
Hmm.
it means so much when other people join in. It's this hypersensory incredible world where we're seeing all these colors and feeling all these things, and to have that get turned into this characterization of selfishness
Yeah,
and lack of empathy, and back to needs. I hear that one. I Not so much. I almost never hear that one about me, but I hear people experiencing it often, and I have heard it from people who don't spend a lot of time with me or have tried to get to really know my body language and learn is that myth with autism of a lack of empathy is no, you we know what you're feeling probably before you
right.
do, but we're not sure if we can tell you. And
Ex-
you get upset with us for knowing that you're feeling that way. And that makes us feel defensive. And so,
Right,
and that then gets interpreted as aggressive. And like, it's not the chain of events that's actually occurring. And so few people, y'all watching this, need to hear this. If you're neurotypical, you've got a loved one. Autistic people can work on this too, because we can adapt a lot of masking habits that are neurotypical language and not
hmm,
realize that those aren't good for us. We are processing so much and feel it, and we can actually redirect because it's about need. We're motivated by need. Someone else needs us to pause. Okay, I get joy by filling your need, even if it
right,
means having to stop what I'm saying. Just do a gesture. I love the gesture. My kids come and touch me,
right.
or we use hand motions to help with that rejection sensitivity. It takes the edge off the verbal
Exactly.
and gives something else to kind of come in and say, oh, I need some space here. I need some time here. And if only we could be that way around around doctors more, I think we get a lot more done. It would be
Right.
fun. We could even have fun with it.
Oh, well, and
What a
I always
world.
try to lead with my doctors. I always apologize when I have a Notion account with like endless amounts of data and all my medical history, and I pull it up and they kind of look at me like, whoa. And I'm like, I'm sorry. One of my special interests is researching, and my special interests are studying people and researching. So with this, it's like that's what I do. I can't work right now and with my health. And so I spend my time researching what my conditions and learning about it. So it seems overwhelming, but I'm always apologizing like, I'm sorry, it's my special interest. I'm obsessed with it because I don't know how to like make them not feel intimidated by the amount of like
Well,
information
it's
I
and the
have.
thing is, Beth, it's their emotions,
Right.
and we in that accusation of the lack of empathy is such a deep ignorance of how our brains work, of our whole neurobiology. This has been studied and it's just so blatantly not true.
Hmm.
Because in that moment, you are willing to apologize for being yourself
Hmm.
to help the doctor who's supposed to help you feel better.
To not bruise his ego, to be like, I have this huge collection of information and I think I know what I'm talking about. Like I'm trying
Yeah.
so hard not to be like, I know what I'm talking about. You do, I don't. That whole thing of
Mhm.
I'm just a little girl here with some information. So, don't like it's walking that fine line, and it's very interesting um, in the
Mhm.
medical setting,
Yeah.
trying to do that. When I first figured out I was autistic, one of my first appointments I went to, I mentioned in the intake that I was autistic, and the room they took me in had dim lights and soft music. And I've only experienced that once, but it was a huge, remarkable difference. It was like and so it's made me want that in more medical settings, and I know a lot of people
Mhm.
advocate for that, but if there were
Oh, I
more
think everyone would do better.
sensory
Oh my
space with
gosh.
bright
The
lights,
high
yeah,
stress,
it's
like
so much.
it's just too much. And we have that, coming into those settings, and the sensory piece is trying to communicate needs. The bit about, I mentioned earlier about having been kind of in this fight, in this battle your whole life, and then you finally have a moment to prioritize, and how hard it is to actually prioritize our own needs over other people's in the room. And I've been feeling this a lot deeply in some personal ways. So, the pauses and the deep thoughts are like, oh, I'm feeling that. There, there is no evil bone in the body. There's no maliciousness. It's so fundamentally not a part of who we are. And yet, the environment we've had to live in and the things we've had to do to surviving on multiple levels. And in the midst of all of it, getting things blamed on our autism, or blamed on our trauma, or blamed on and I mean medical as well as other possible different things. And I think it creates this idea that we can't actually heal or recover or get to know other people on an equal footing. And that just breaks my heart, because I spent many years being treated that way, and finding in later years, the last few years, building better relationships with more mature people who really wanted to know me and could process how much I wanted to know them and be interested in them and anything that's going on in them. The people is a special interest. And the difference of having a life surrounded by, instead, so we prioritize everyone's needs, we end up in a lot of relationships that maybe are not very good for us, because we're not really thinking about that. And being able to be with people, walking with you, walking with others, doing this EDS journey, hearing you communicate and talk about this now versus 4 months ago is so incredibly wonderful. And so much gets missed, um, when when the doctors and other people in our lives aren't a part of that journey. I mean, we live a lot of life.
And hearing you say, as someone who has a couple years on me in their adult on autism diagnosis, is so refreshing, because to me, I've conditioned myself to never feel safe letting those things that, like, I'm still in that process of, like you said, you've been able to find those relationships where you can be you, and just be that. And to me, that's like hopeful that one day I can get there, because there's so much that's ingrained in me of like, just don't let that out. You cover all that, you cover your needs, you silence your aches, your pains, you quiet it down, and you mask it away. And so, like, getting to that point where you can be comfortable with, you know other people that can appreciate you for you, is a goal of mine. That's something I want, because I've realized that, like, I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I wasn't so worried about everyone else that in some way I'm
Mhm.
most likely harming myself at this point. In some way it's causing me some sort of distress or harm. And so my goal is to learn how to do that. So it's very good, inspiring to see you got there.
One of the best compliments I got early in my diagnosis was somebody said, I was I was so distressed process, because your first couple, the autism, there's so much relief, but then you're also reprocessing all these other things in life you have tried to cope with, tried to recover from, or haven't been able to. Huge journey there. We could have a whole podcast
Yeah.
episode just on mental health recovery, and processing. But they said you've always shown up as you. And in the midst of so much masking and a sense of never possibly having shown up as yourself, I see that in my amazing Autie brothers and sisters, that even in their masking, they are actually not deceiving. And neurotypicals don't get that. It's not a deception. It's a deep desire to connect with enough knowledge and skill and ability to be the one in the relationship that is most willing to adapt to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not easy. It doesn't mean we do it great and have the perfect emotions and perfect tone of what, that's a whole other thing. But the desire,
But we're trying to.
desire, the core need, the core motivation of the heart of it is to bridge the gap with other people when we know they can't. No one puts as much effort into relationships, even if it's dysfunctional, than an
Right.
autistic person. And that needs to be the baseline of a relationship, brand new or recovering. That has to be understood about us with anybody, or we're never going to get anywhere. It's just never going to go forward. And you show up as yourself in all the chaos and stuff we have to deal with. It is so cool to get to hang out with you, with my other Autie sisters in the EDS world, and occasionally a few brothers. It's few and far between.
Right.
But to just show up and to be ourselves in a moment, to get to work on some things and to see it come to fruition. And it's just a fraction of y'all's lives that I get to be a part of, and vice versa. But I mean, to me, it's a gift.
Well, it's a gift having someone like you that understands what I'm talking about and has been on the same journey. Rachel was the first person I've ever met after I realized I was autistic and had EDS that had both. So it's been a really crazy experience for me to have the language with someone that doesn't think I'm speaking like total gibberish about all these conditions and words and the autism and the realizations and the, info dump, all those words that are new to me, but you understand that language. So it's very refreshing to have someone that I can connect with on that level, because it does make you feel like you're in a world on your own. A lot of times, especially being autistic and not knowing your whole life, you feel like you're on your own planet anyways. So it's
Oh
really
yeah,
nice to meet other people on your planet.
it is. It really is.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't react to me just
Yeah.
now. That was a new experience.
Right.
Can I have more?
Right.
Well, let's I'm glad we did the recap. I some more beautiful things came up this time
Yeah.
around too that we would have missed earlier.
Yeah.
So
You'll have to send me that whole video. I know you'll
I'm
edit
gonna
it.
upload it. It'll be out on. We'll put it on the channel and
Yeah.
on YouTube and share it out with everybody for today. EDS
It's a
awareness.
good little therapy session
See
too. That
what
was
tomorrow
good.
is.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say in closing before
Um,
we say goodbye?
No, I think everybody's so brave and awesome that's out there talking about ES, autism, all of this. I know for me, it's absolutely terrifying. And I'm sure it is for a lot of other people. Naturally, we don't like this stuff. Don't like being perceived. That's a big thing for me. I hate it. So, I have so much respect and admiration for everyone out there telling their story and trying to bring awareness, because I know it's hard and not natural for all of us. So thank you, and you're all amazing.
You are. It's worth it. Even if it doesn't feel like it now. Grab a moment tonight. Remember some time when you felt safe. And if you haven't had that feeling yet, please reach out and let me see if we can connect you to someone who can help with that. But if you can, maybe it's years back, you're overwhelmed with this journey and don't know what to manage next, and all's chaos and your mind's just looping all the different steps. Take a moment and pause. And that doesn't mean a thing to an autistic person without practical. So here's the practical piece. Use your memory, this amazing brain, to travel back in time to some place you found that you feel safe, even maybe where you felt delight. Could be a tiniest moment of a special interest, something when you were very, very little, or maybe something last week that stood out to you, like that cup of coffee just tasted so amazing on this particular day. And dive into those sensations, those positive sensations your body can experience. We have so many of the negative ones, and just take a few minutes to think about that taste and that texture and what you smelled and what you heard over and over again, and let it fill you up, because your body is amazing. And the reason you can sense all of these things is part of what can help you get better
Mhm.
quickly, because you will be able to talk about it. We need some positive feeling. So I hope
Mhm.
you had some positive feelings hanging out tonight and talking or listening to us. If you were, some of these things might have resonated really deeply. And so if you are in need of more emotional support, please reach out to a loved one. Leave a comment on this video to just feel like you've communicated something. I will read them. And Beth can jump in and help me read them too, in case there's a whole ton of them. And we'll share
Absolutely.
the
We're at
love.
very different stages of the journey, so it's a good, people to have for both. I'm very much in the beginning, and Rachel's my inspiration for being more towards the end and someone who's gotten to where I want to be. So we're kind of on both ends. So reach out if you're in either stage, because it's not fun in any of them. But I know the stage I'm in can be very overwhelming when you are just starting to realize all the things. So I'm here if anybody wants to reach out for that as well.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Beth. Have a fantastic, beautiful night.
Good night, everyone.